Hello, this is William Robinson of ViralHair.com, and we're speaking to...
I'm James Chisum of Nerdfest and of NerdCon, director of NerdCon, co-director. I'm one of the guys behind NerdCon. I also work with Jerry Schaefer, whom you all know, Jerry Jacob Schaefer. I work with the City of Mont Belvieu and the Chambers County Library System on NerdCon, and I'm one of the great admins of Nerdfest, the Facebook group. I feel like that got a very long entry.
Yes, but what is NerdCon exactly?
So NerdCon is a Comic-Con. It's a pop culture. It's not really a Comic-Con. It's more of a pop culture convention because one of the things that we've noticed is that, we're all fans and we all love what we love, whether it's comic books or anime or, sci-fi movies, TV shows. And so really when we wanted to put together our Comic-Con, I wanted to kind of show respect to all of that. So NerdCon is a Comic-Con out in Mont Belvieu, or a pop culture convention out in Mont Belvieu. And we just re-celebrate everything that's awesome about pop culture and what makes us kind of all come together with a love of fandom.
Now, with everything that happened, with people being shut in due to where the pandemic was running and everything else, do you think it's more important than it was before to be able to celebrate together?
Oh, sure. Let me tell you. Now, the pandemic, and we all know the pandemic is really lame and totally blows. It's funny because we did NerdCon 1 at the library, and that was going great. And our, it was really kind of a feeler. So the next year we decided we're going to get a theme, and so our theme was invasion. And so NerdCon 2 was all about invasion. Invasion is coming, and invasion is coming. So we started planning for NerdCon 3, and I got this brilliant idea. I'm like, let's do our convention, and we'll make this year's theme Outbreak. And of course, Andrew Valdez, our great illustrator who creates our logos and does all of that, he creates this great artwork of a zombie Nerdy Frank, who's our little logo. And, it's kind of this whole Walking Dead thing. But we were always, the whole thing was we were going to talk about the disease spreading. It's spreading. The disease of NerdCon is spreading. The only cure is to come to NerdCon. And we get our logo design, and we're planning, and all of a sudden COVID hits. And there's no NerdCon 3. So I like to think that we were in some way responsible for COVID. Yeah, because we were planning it, and it was a lot of fun. And I still look at the great artwork that Andrew did, and all the plans that we had. We were going to do this whole. If you've seen any of our films that we do that are really bad, by the way, but we do all these fun, kind of entertaining little film commercials, and I had this whole thing about this zombie apocalypse kind of thing, and racing to get a cure, and the only cure for this nerd disease was to go to NerdCon. And but yeah, COVID beat us out, and so this year coming back, we were like, what should we do for our theme? And we decided not to revisit the whole Outbreak thing because we figured we didn't want to remind people of COVID. But yes, I do think, getting back to your original question, it's super important that we all get together and hang out. Of course, we have to be responsible because COVID hasn't gone away. But our sense of kinship shouldn't go away either, and our sense of friendship, and we should be able to meet each other, and obviously we want to respect each other's space and be safe, but you need your friends, and you need to be joined together with the things that you love.
Right. Now, NerdCon, having attended the first one, actually it's in both first ones.
Yes, you were.
Works very well with Mont Belvieu itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it like for a small town on the outskirts to kind of have their own convention, a way they can put a stamp on a little bit?
Well, I think one of the great things about Mont Belvieu is that they really, they embrace that idea that they're a small town in a big city. You know what I mean? And so you've got all of those great conveniences of the big city, but you still have that comfortable small town feel. The city of Mont Belvieu really looks to bring unique things and great businesses to the table, and to get people to come out and just really be a part of their community. And they really work with a sense of family. So it was important to them when they started working with us, because initially the city of Mont Belvieu just was barely involved with us for the first NerdCon. We were really primarily working with the Chambers County Library System. And so when the city came on board, they wanted to make sure that we were a family-oriented show, and that we really put together a quality show for the citizens in their community. And they've been wonderful to support us. And in time we've kind of taken that mission of bringing something that was both family oriented and very inclusive to heart. So working with the city of Mont Bellevue is amazing, and the people of Mont Bellevue have really embraced NerdCon as their own. They actually, in the Baytown Sun, they asked what was your favorite entertainment event, and NerdCon came in second place, and it had been more than a full year removed from NerdCon actually taking place this year. So we were really honored by that. So that shows that the city really, the people of the city have really kind of embraced what we're doing, and it's just really turned out really nice, and it's a good relationship. I'm glad to be working with the city.
Now, you were talking about themes earlier, but I know from attending different conventions that sometimes different cons will, depending on what's hot that year, will like embrace a certain fandom because they're trying to, of course, get the tickets and whatever. But NerdCon kind of has an advantage where they can appreciate all kinds of fandom because it's an open show.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, that's really important to us. I didn't ever want the scope to be very narrow. If you go to a lot of shows, their scope is narrow, whether it's just anime or it's just comic books or it's just Star Wars. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to say, we all pretty much like the same things. Most of the people I know who like Star Wars also like Star Trek. They also like the Matrix. They like all kinds of things. And same thing with anime. I mean, most people who like anime also like comic books and Marvel movies, and so it's all the same crowd. So why segregate it? Why make it two different things? Let's just have it all together as one, and we can kind of celebrate. And we're at a great convention today, the Eastern Rim Funny Book and Vintage Con, and even though this is a very comic book focused crowd, you still see a lot of cosplayers coming in celebrating anime. You're still seeing a lot of those types of products, sci-fi products going out the door. So. It's just, we're all the same kind of fans, so I've always wanted to promote as, it's a multicultural kind of fan event.
With community-based shows like Eastern Rim and yours, a lot of the big shows went virtual and stuff for a while, but it seems like smaller shows, whether it be the Comic Conroe or what you do here, what Jerry Schaefer does with this show, are actually thriving in a way. What do you think is probably part of the impetus or the drive behind that?
Well, I can't speak to a lot of shows, but I can tell you when Jerry and I worked together on NerdCon, I think the fact that we worked to make it a community show. When you consider the vendors themselves, the vendors are our friends typically, and so when we bring them in, we keep them very informed as what's going on, what our plans are for promoting. Just how things are being done and put together. So they're really very knowledgeable. And when you work with your friends, you kind of know their personalities. And to me, having a show that's really great for the people attending is super important. So I want to make sure that when guests come, that they have a good show, that they're going to deal with vendors who are going to be polite, who are going to be outgoing, and who are really going to make the event fun. So that I think is really, really important. So I think, getting back to your question, what do I think makes those kind of shows better? For us, it's just that we know the people, and even with the celebrities we bring, we try to get people who are very down to earth. They understand when they come in, and our shows are free to the public, and that we really want them to be able to come and interact with them. And, when you look at, for example, Tom McKee is here today, and Tom McKee has come to NerdCon, and, he's somebody who will get out and he'll talk to people. He'll take pictures with them. He's very engaging, and he knows that he's part of the show and how important this is to us, and he takes that to heart. So for us, we kind of look at everything from well, I don't want to say just from the person who's attending. We try to see everybody's perspective. What do the vendors want out of this show? What is going to be important to them? Because yes, they want space and they want to sell their products, and they want to make money, but what else is there? What's going to matter to them? What do they need? Do they need to be able to go get a bathroom break? Do they need to be able to to have time to go get lunch? Do they need good parking? We want to find out what's important to them. What's important to the special guest? To the celebrity that's coming. What do we need to do to accommodate them besides giving them cash, right? What do we need to make sure that they're involved in and having a good time? And what's great for the fans who are coming out? They are really, they're the ones that the show's all about. So what do we need to do for them? So we try to see different perspectives. It's not just about my perspective. It's not what does James want from a Comic-Con, but it's how do I think about, what these people want, and how do I make that work and bring that all together? And that's something that, I'm very fortunate to have Jerry working with me. I wish he wasn't busy today because he could kind of jump in here and talk. But we have a great working dynamic, and that's what's important to us. There's nobody out there probably more focused on what vendors want than Jerry. And I start from the place of the fandom, and we just bring that all together. So.
Well, thank you for your perspective on conventions. And when is Nerdfest? NerdCon.
Nerdfest is every day on Facebook.
It's a really good group.
Yeah, and by the way, yes, and I love that William was so kind as to say, James, you're talking too much. We only have so long to do this. My battery's dying. No. NerdCon is December 4th, 2021. It's going to be at Eagle Point Rec Center in Mont Bellevue. And I'm going to go ahead and continue talking until William regains his composure and can finish out this interview, because I'm afraid that I've probably gotten a little too silly for good conclusion. But no, I do appreciate William having me on and letting me talk about NerdCon and Nerdfest, because that's super important to me. And anytime people entrust me to help them with an event, or even to be a vendor at an event, it's a big responsibility, and I always try to think about that.
And that is something looking at these different shows, and some have been fortunate to have both big and small shows. Mm-hmm. I've seen some shows, they got so big for their britches, to use that phrase, they actually had to pull back and reset things because they forgot about the fans.
Yeah.
And in an inverse way, do you think that having smaller shows, more fan-focused, more family-focused, may have actually kind of reminded some of these bigger shows what's important?
Oh, sure. I think when you get to be too big, or so big, it's such a machine, and there's so many moving parts that there are ways that it kind of loses its personality or loses its personal touch. I guess that would be expected. Whereas a smaller show, I've always said, don't get me wrong, I love the big shows. I've ended at Comic Palooza for the first time this year, but I've gone to the show as a fan many, many years, and it was a wonderful experience. And I've done a lot of other big shows, but, the difficulty in the big show is you don't get to spend a lot of time with the fans or the vendors, because, it's so busy and there's so much to see, and this fan's going to come by and they're going to visit with you for 5 minutes, but then you probably won't see them the rest of the weekend because there's just so much else for them to see. Maybe they swing back by, maybe they don't, but generally you don't get to spend a lot of time with people. But at a smaller show like with NerdCon or with the Eastern Rim Funny Looking Vintage Con, there's really a sense of community. These folks come out, and because it's a smaller show and there's not as much as far as the vendors go, they're able to spend a little more time with you, and you can just kind of talk and really have that sense of community, get to know people. I take selfies of all my clients and of all my friends and all the cosplayers, because I want them to know that they're important, and we want them to feel like they're celebrities. So, get that sense of community.
Now, speaking of celebrities, what do you think would be probably the perfect anchor guest for a small con like this?
Oh my God, Harrison Ford, all the way. Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger. I honestly, it's hard to say because one of the challenges of being a smaller show is getting guests that you can afford.
Right.
I strive to keep our convention very, very user friendly. Our previous year, we didn't charge our vendors anything. We've never charged ticket prices for people coming in, and we were supplemented pretty well by the county, which was nice. The county was nice enough to give us some funding. But because of COVID, that had to be cut out. So this year we are having to charge our vendors a little bit, but we're still keeping the costs low. So when it comes to perfect guests, it really depends on what you want the focus to be and what you can afford. Because the guests, you always have to consider, you've got to get the guests, and they've got to have some money, and how much money are they going to make on autographs? So you have to have a little bit of money set aside for them that you're going to pay them. You got to provide them travel expenses. You got to provide them a hotel. So it really depends on what kind of funding your convention has. For me, I like to find good anime guests that we can get at a decent price. I'd love to find some Power Rangers to come to our show. Maybe some television celebrities. It just really depends, because with every guest I bring, that's a little bit more of my funding that goes away. So funding is really the challenge. Would I tell you anybody in particular is a great guest to have? You just have to look at the individual and see what their personality is. We had Tom McKee at our previous show, who's here today. We had Whitney Rogers. Both are super personal, super nice. We had Tiffany Ballmer, the OG voice of Bulma, come to the last show. So all of those were wonderful guests, and they were right there with what we can do for the community. So it's just perfect anchor guest, whoever you can afford that you feel like fits your crowd.
Well, thank you very much for your time, James.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And after 72 hours of editing, this should be good to go.